So the video for today is concerning this SmallRig Top Shoe Handle. Of course, you'll recognize this from my rig build. This is the handle itself. So let's get started. Here is the micro cinema camera in the SmallRig cage with the cold shoe mounts as you saw in the rig build. And this handle, basically, it is a standard handle. Now this part number is 1248 from SmallRig. Most of them are very similar. This one mounts with 4 cap screws, different grip types or shapes or designs or patterns, as well as a sort of a leather wrapped grip. And then they'll have sometimes different colored trim rings that are also options that you can get on these. This one basically, it has a mount for a cold shoe. And the way that this mounts is there is a screw that mounts through some inside threads that holds the inside of the foot onto it. And of course this is just a thumb nut or finger nut that can adjust to clamp down on it. First, let me show you how it goes on. So here's that. Of course, I did it so you could adjust it and use it like a side handle, or of course it could be used as a top handle, or of course you could spin it around. Sort of a traditional feel to it. It has its own cold shoe, kind of thin but still functional cold shoe where you can mount ball joint or arm or something to pivot, mount the screen on top. A lot of people typically do their top handle like this. Their screen will be mounted up top like this. Something along this arrangement here. Just like that. So let's get into the handle itself. For this video, what I'm going to do, because I want to address an issue reported on forums and online. And it has to do with this screw, that if there's tension here, you've got it mounted in the cold shoe mount, and if for some reason there's a sharp jolt to this handle in this direction, it can unseat the screw or loosen the threads here. And I'll show you what will happen and why it can happen, and also how to fix it. Of course, we've got 2 Allen wrenches for this. And so the way we open this up is loosen these 4 cap screws with the smaller of the hex wrenches. Just undo these. And these are pretty well machined. All the pieces fit together well to where these 4 screws, they don't need to be torqued or anything. They just need to be seated tight. And because there's 4 of them, because everything's tolerances are good, there's not a lot of play. Well, once those 4 out, this separates off. Here's the handle. Like I said, most of the handles have a similar design. What will be different is the grip style, and in particular, the trim rings also come in different styles. But this, in general, for the majority of SmallRig handles, this is the style, unless you're talking about their sort of a cheese grater or their all-metal grips or all-metal top handles. From this, we'll adapt into the different types of mounts, whether it's the cold shoe mount or whether it is a different type mount that comes down and has the mount for a NATO rail or for a rosette or for anything like that. The nice thing about this particular handle, which is, they call it their version 7, the number 1248 of this mount, is it's got 2 1/4-20s on each side for mounting options, and it's got 3 1/4-20 holes on this side. Now, what happens if this gets loose? So if this gets loose, which you can see it's very well organized in there pretty well. So if this gets loose, you'll notice you'll have some end play. You'll get some wobble because this threads in to the shoe this way. Notice this has a channel cut into it. There we go. Now you can see it just like that. So it's got this channel, and of course it's round on the edges, plenty of play, plenty of room for insertion, and then of course it's square. That matches up with this, which you see is round, but then it's got square cuts on it that fit into that channel. And of course, having this, when this screw is threaded all the way in tight, it's the tolerance between this and the channel that prevent it from backing out or from wobbling. However, in certain situations, people are saying that if this gets torqued hard enough, it will back this screw out, and then you end up with wobble. Got to take it all apart, take this handle off to get to the back of this, and tighten it back up. There's a relatively cheap hardware store solution to this, and it's this. We call this a lock washer or a spring washer, and also a flat washer. This is for $1/4 goes on, then you add your flat washer. The reason why you add the flat washer is because this is aluminum, and if you were to just do like this, it wouldn't be a big deal. You tighten it down, this would compress, the spring washer or lock washer will compress, no problem. But when you go to back out, as it releases, it's going to want to spin, and you might end up gouging the surface of this. So that's where the flat washer comes in. So you put these two together, insert it like this. Now of course I'm just going to thread this on just to get it back close. Of course, have to line the flat edge up so that it slides in, and then we can finish tightening this up, that whole stack together. The flat washer protects the surface, while the spring washer or lock washer, when this is tight, it doesn't have to be crammed super tight, it keeps tension on these interior threads. Now of course it backs this screw out just a little bit, and of course if you don't like shiny with your black, you can either paint this black or you can get a heat treated washer and a heat treated lock or spring washer, and then it'll all be black. But this is just so you can see and demonstrate. Once this is secure, that spring washer or lock washer will keep tension on the threads such that it will be less likely that a spin of this or whatever tolerances would allow this to move independent of this would simply tighten up against it instead of breaking it loose. Now once this is done, now you just reassemble. So here we have this. Make sure our holes are lined up. Easiest thing to start is to get one end just kind of hand threaded, line up the opposite, and then all of them should be lined up, and you can start them by hand. Once they're done, you use this, just spin them down evenly, just seat them in, and just hand tight. There we go. This is all nice and tight, and now right in, tighten it up, and it's snug. And the less likely chance that you're going to be able to back this screw out and thus loosen the handle where you'd have to dismantle all of this and put it back in. And if you're worried about the coloring, well, like I said, spray paint it black, whatever. But this should eliminate the issue of, in particular, on any of these handles that use a screw like a through bolt or through screw at this 1/4, it should keep this from backing out if there's any vibration or torque on it, just by adding what really is a few pennies or a few cents worth of hardware. Well, in all, with that fixed, most people have had no real issues with this handle. It's versatile, it has lots of mounting options, and so far it has worked really well for my rig. So there is the SmallRig Top Shoe Handle number 1248. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thank you very much.